Presidential nominee and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance responding to the former president's comments.
Some people on the left who are encouraging violent responses to what we believe is going to be a Donald Trump victory in a couple of weeks, that's not okay. And I think it's totally reasonable for the president to point out that, yes, we've got the strongest country in the world, but we do have some broken leaders in Washington.
Democrats Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, and Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan are all promoting their connections to Donald Trump in their campaign ads.
Casey bucked Biden to protect fracking, and he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating.
Tammy Baldwin got President Trump to sign her Made in America bill.
And then she got President Biden to make it permanent.
That's why I wrote a law signed by President Trump, forcing drug companies to show their actual prices.
Trump 2024 National Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says that tells her one thing.
Well, that right there is the writing on the wall. And it tells you that the Democrats know that Donald Trump is more popular today than he ever has been before. And for the first time in decades, more Americans are identifying as Republican than Democrat, which is a very good sign for President Trump and for his campaign. The Democrats see that, and now they're trying to cozy up to him.
CBS News finally responding to the claim that they deceptively edited Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview that aired on October 7th. CBS News issued a statement denying that claim, saying they only edited for time purposes. Fox News contributor Joe Concha isn't buying it.
This statement 60 Minutes issued is absolutely meaningless. The only resolution here is for the program to release the full transcript, release the hounds, release the interview in its entirety from start to finish. But the network won't do that. You know why they won't do that? Two reasons. One, the people that run that network want Kamala Harris to win and Donald Trump to lose. This ain't about journalism, it's about activism. And two, they know by releasing the transcript or the unedited video, it will likely show that on multiple occasions, this interview cut the guts out of the various word salad the vice president again served up.
American Family Association continues to engage with companies about issues in the workplace.
AFA just filed a proposal with Home Depot when it comes to Christian employee resource groups. AFA Vice President Walker Wildman.
Most of these publicly traded companies have various employee resource groups, whether it be veterans. Home Depot, for example, has an LGBTQ employee resource group, but no Christian resource group.
Wildman called that very odd.
Most companies at least offer a Christian resource group for the employees to participate in, but Home Depot does not. So we're looking at discussing that with Home Depot, hopefully using the shareholder engagement process with a proposal there. We also are doing something similar with Bank of New York Mellon. And then lastly, John Deere is a proposal we just submitted in recent weeks regarding their corporate charitable giving. So which groups are they giving to? Are they donating to left-wing groups like the Human Rights Campaign and others, or are they donating to groups that are protecting American families like American Family Association? And of course, we know the answer to that is no.
I'm Chris Woodward.
More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues, the name of this show, on this Monday, October the 21st, 2024. Joining me in studio is Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
And good morning, Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
And the gentlemen, we are staring down the presidential election, right? Coming
2 weeks from tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Finally.
It's the final countdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we
Oh, that sounds like a Kamala Harris laugh.
Yeah.
Getting the same kind of the same vibe from that singing voice.
I'll work on that after.
I mean, it seems
No,
like
you really don't need to work on that, Chris. I would just drop it all together.
That guy sings really high. Well, he did back 40 years ago.
There are some things you can work on, and then some things you can't or shouldn't.
All right, so Kamala Harris, the VP, is coming down the home stretch with the former President Trump, and they are vying for the votes of Americans. And listen, the polls right now, I always say the polls for what they're worth, and I think they are worth something when you look at a collection of polls, not necessarily just one poll. But the polls are trending in the swing states, which is where the election will be won or lost, towards Trump. And I shall bring forth evidence now.
Yes.
If you go to the Real Clear Politics, which I reference a lot here. No, they don't pay me. The Real Clear Politics, that is where you get the polls are, all, what do you call it? All wrapped into
Just
one.
combined.
Combined polls. Okay. So here, the battleground states include Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Those are considered the battleground states where, it could go red, it could go blue on any given election. A lot of states now are very predictable. You know that in Mississippi, we are going to go for the Republican candidate. Doesn't matter if it's a ham sandwich. Okay. Then there are good ham sandwiches and bad ham sandwiches. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm not dissing all ham sandwiches, saying they're not qualified. In California, for example, they're going to go blue every day, all day. It doesn't matter if they've got, a corn dog, for example, up against a Republican. They're going, the Californians are going to vote for the corn dog as long as it's a Democrat. So those things are predictable. But what I'm saying is, I was looking at these Real Clear Politics averages, which I have here before me. Now, understand these are very tiny margins of a lead for Trump. All right, but yet they are all trending in his direction. Arizona, it shows Trump up 1.6. Nevada, Trump up 0.8. Wisconsin, Trump up, which is a shock. You would think Harris would be well ahead in Wisconsin, but no, Trump. I don't know why I say that, except that they typically vote Democrat. You got statewide elections. I don't know. You got. I'm thinking about Wisconsin. Maybe that's not fair. They're kind of a purple state. They can go Senator Johnson's from there. So anyway, Michigan, here's a shocker. Michigan is up. Trump is up 1.2 in Michigan. Pennsylvania, Trump up 0.8. North Carolina, Trump up 0.5. Georgia, Trump up 1.8. So I just say, Ed, Trump is ahead in all the swing states right now. Why? To what do you attribute that?
Well, first, I do want to have two caveats here. So, all of these are within the margin of error. However,
yes, they are.
However, in 2020 and also in 2016, the Democratic candidates were up substantially in these kinds of polls, which is fairly typical in terms of polling. If you just have a generic race between Republicans and Democrats typically are ahead. So when we look at the swing states now, 15 days out of the election, and you see Trump up, even though it's within the margin of error,
right?
That's a substantial difference to the way things were in 2020 and 2016, probably indicating that President Trump, if things stay the same over the next couple of weeks, could win those battleground states. It would be extraordinary to sweep all 7, but if he did, it's a possibility, and he may win them by 3 or 4 percentage points.
Right.
Yeah.
I do want to say that everything Tim just shared from the battleground states, I've taken a screenshot from all of the battleground states from Real Clear Politics and posted those on our Today's Issues Facebook page. Look also for the electoral map, because Real Clear Politics says pretty much if the election was today, here's how things would play out. And Trump would win 312 to Kamala's 200-something. You need 270 to win. So basically they're saying if it was today, Trump would win. And these battleground states that Tim just read off are going towards Trump if it were today.
That would be by roughly 90 electoral votes.
Yes.
That victory, if he sweeps all those battleground states.
And there's a lot of time left for somebody to gain ground or lose ground because we're 15 days away.
So why was the former president cooking fries at McDonald's this weekend, Ed?
Well, listen, I know we probably have some sound on this.
We do.
But so President Trump went to a McDonald's. This is in Wisconsin, I think.
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pennsylvania.
And so he, I guess, I don't know, surprised people driving up. They did have to vet the people driving up because he has had his life threatened. He's been shot at. But listen, President Trump, I think President Trump genuinely likes people. I think that comes across.
As long as they like him.
Well, that's true.
And you say nice things about him.
Right.
If you guys want to just go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll
see myself out.
No, I think he genuinely likes people. You are right, Tim and Chris, that you kind of have to play ball for him to continue liking. But I think he likes being around people. So when he shows up at a restaurant or a ball game, for example, and now at McDonald's, he just likes that kind of. He's one of those kind of people who likes to work the room. Plus, he has an excellent. I think he has I don't know, knowledge is not the right word. Instincts.
Intuition,
instincts on what will play in terms of
public relations.
He's good at that. So he shows up at McDonald's serving fries. He's dressed in the little outfit.
It was a stroke of genius, I think.
It's absolutely what he does so well.
Go ahead.
Now, part of the reason why he wanted to do this is because Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, has claimed that she once worked at a McDonald's. Now, that is under dispute. People have claimed they went back and found the manager. They can't find any evidence that she worked there. So Trump wanted to prove that he himself has worked at McDonald's more than she has. And that's what he says here in our clip here, clip 1.
Now I have worked at McDonald's. I've now worked for 15 minutes more than Kamala. Okay, she never worked here. I've now worked 15 minutes more than Kamala. So I worked at McDonald's. I'm going to say because she's lying, Kamala. That's why. Why would she lie? She shouldn't lie about it.
The headline today should have been Fries and Lies or something like that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Fries and lies. Hey, can I just ask, I know we're 2 weeks away from the election.
Yeah.
Is it Kamala or Kamala? I'm still asking this question.
She herself says Kamala, and people that are her allies in media have corrected people on air when they say Kamala. So they're going with Kamala at the moment.
You think that Trump is doing that on purpose? Or
no, I think he just I'm pretty sure she herself a long time ago said it Kamala.
Okay.
But,
all right. I heard him say that in that clip. But anyway, to Tim's point, that's a stroke of public relations genius, because he's not only pointing out the fact that I don't know whether Kamala Harris worked at McDonald's or not. It wouldn't be unusual for a manager not to remember a teenager working at McDonald's, but Trump is pigeonholing her as someone who lies, and she has been lying a lot, and now he does it in a fun way, and it's somehow to me more relatable when he dons the getup and starts handing out French fries. He looks like a normal person, even though he's a billionaire.
Yeah. He looked like the manager there in the apron and the tie. What's interesting here is a lot of Democrats are saying this was a publicity stunt. It was never a real thing.
Huh.
Of course.
Who'd have thought in politics
we'd
be having a publicity stunt?
And a billionaire president working at McDonald's.
Right.
Who would doubt
My
that?
point is every day's a publicity stunt for all the candidates.
Yes. And what's interesting is nobody has raised that concern when it comes to Kamala calling a state or a local official to talk about hurricane response, and the guy or lady that she's talking to just happen to have a high-quality camera rolling while they're talking to one another on the phone. Nonetheless, Democrats are saying this was a huge publicity stunt and Trump's deranged. He's lost his mental faculties. That's not me saying that. That's Representative Barbara Lee and a whole host of others. Here's one example. It's Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. It's going to begin with MSNBC talking to her, but Representative Lee will be at the end. Clip 2.
What is the logic behind this, going to a McDonald's? I mean, we know the guy likes Big Macs and filet of fish, and he's used the word love to describe the way he feels about the food there before. But what's this about?
There's no logic to it. It's a stunt. He has not put forth an economic agenda. He, as you know, appears to be not well, and he's engaged in some really bizarre types of activities during this campaign.
Yeah, well, it's a Democrat talking about a Republican, and that's, you know, I just think overall to middle America out there, it was a fun thing for Trump to do, and I think he scored a lot of points for doing it. Yeah. Talking about going to McDonald's. Yeah. If you missed it, Trump went to McDonald's in Wisconsin, a battleground state, over the weekend, and cooked fries for 15 minutes and served them, and you know,
people drive out.
People drive by. Yeah. You know, he's handing them fries.
No, listen, I think it's a brilliant tactic, and we all know that President Trump, when it comes to public relations, and it comes to kind of that self-promotion, he's been a genius at it for 40, 50 years. And it's been nowhere more evident than in this election.
If I'm a Kamala Harris, I'm going to call her Kamala because that's what she calls herself, right?
Currently.
And you're the Democrats right now. This is not saying they will lose, but they're worried. They are worried because of what Ed mentioned earlier, the polls from 16 and 20 compared to today, and how they were ahead. The Democrats, Clinton and Biden, were ahead in the polls in the swing states by 3 to 6 points, and that evaporated to almost zero on election day, right? And now you've got Harris and Trump tied in essence. So if the trends work out from past 2 election cycles, then there's a real chance that Trump could sweep the battleground states, honestly.
And to your point here, I've got some audio of 3 Democrats: Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, and Elisa Slotkin of Michigan. Listen to their campaign ads here. They're all
These are Democrats,
These
right?
are all Democrats
running for Senate.
Yeah, and they're all promoting their connections to Donald Trump in some campaign ads. Clip 10.
Casey bucked Biden to protect fracking, and he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating.
Tammy Baldwin got President Trump the Steiner Made in America bill.
And then she got President Biden to make it permanent.
That's why I wrote a law signed by President Trump forcing drug companies to show their actual prices.
So those are Democrat incumbent senators in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, and their television ads are citing their agreements with Trump.
Orange man bad, yes.
Yeah,
and
they're trying to play the middle. They're trying to,
Listen, I think that's perfect. I think that's evidence not only of Trump's popularity in these battleground states, but also I think it's an illustration of the fact that old school liberals, after this election, if Trump wins, especially if he wins handily by 70, 80, or 90 electoral votes, there's going to have to be a reckoning within the Democratic Party where the establishment in that party has to isolate and cut out the radical left. They're going to have to move back towards old school liberal ideas because it's the radical nature of the Democratic Party, along with the economy, that is, I think, causing President Trump to be more popular.
Yes.
And to have Democrats tying themselves to Trump and talking about kind of common sense decisions on things like energy, I think is a sign that the Democratic Party, unless they win, if they win with a radical left in control of the party, then they're going to continue to go.
Right. So my first
direction.
election was in 2000.
You ran?
No. My first election I voted in.
I missed something.
Wasn't
there,
old
Chris,
enough.
in your background.
Wasn't old enough to. I did sign up for selective service at 18, but I didn't run for POTUS. But anyway.
Okay.
So my first election that I voted in was 2000, and the first election I really remember and kind of paid a lot of attention to was 92. And I remember when like Bill Clinton used to talk about abortion being, quote, safe, legal, and rare.
Right.
30 years later, we're now just pro-abortion. There is no pro-choice anymore.
All 9 months.
Yeah, it's kill them if you got them, pretty much is what Democrats are saying. And meanwhile, you have people like Senator Schumer, when he was a congressman back in 94, then Representative Chuck Schumer is the reason we have the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, or RFRA. And now they want to completely gut that and just force us to sell the cakes and make the cakes and all these other things, take the pictures. So today's Democrats are not what they were 30 years ago. They've completely moved 4,000 miles to the left.
President Clinton signed the Defense of Marriage Act.
Yes, he did.
In 1996. So that is evidence that, and I think by all standards, the Republican Party has pretty much remained the same in its views, that while the Democrats have lurched far, far, far to the left.
Except for life, I would say. Well, the issue of pro-life is not as prominent in the Republican Party as it was. It's less. It matters, but matters less so after the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Well, but you would agree that the rank and file Republicans
are pro-life,
are still the same.
The vast majority of them, the vast majority of them. I'm just saying, it's not it was an issue more in the immediate aftermath of the Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade, but the further we get removed from that, the less it's an issue on either side, Democrats or Republicans. The Democrats. Kamala Harris has got this ad running, and listen, I know Republicans can lie too, but she has got this national ad. I wish I had told you to record it, where she says these are the things that Donald Trump is going to do. She's trying to scare people,
right?
And she says he's going to pass a national abortion ban.
She said that in the debate too.
Yeah.
Okay. That is just a bald face. Is it bold or bald?
Either way.
Can it be both?
When
you say something's a bald face lie.
You say bald face or a bold
It's
lie.
a lie either way.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a bald face lie.
Bald face lie or it's a bold lie, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this case, it was a bald face.
Yeah.
And that's just one word. BALDFASC. FFSC.
Yeah.
Bald face lie. Anyway, Trump can't even do that.
Right.
If he wanted to, it would not be possible. So she says it in the television ad. She says, as a matter of fact, Donald Trump will pass a national abortion ban.
Right.
That
wouldn't even get through Congress, I don't think.
No.
I mean, first of all, the Senate is controlled by Democrats.
It'll never even be brought up.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. That's just categorically untrue. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Chris, we thank you for listening to AFR. Again, the presidential election is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Of course, there are a lot of other seats at play here in the Senate and the House, governorships, your own, maybe your own city council, mayors. I mean, there's a lot to vote on 2 weeks from tomorrow, not just the presidency, even though that gets most of the attention. Go ahead, Chris. What's your next story?
One other, while Trump was frying French fries and serving customers there, Kamala Harris was under fire because she was at a rally in which someone in the audience yelled, "Jesus is Lord" or "Christ is King," and she did not respond in ways that they wish she would have. Somebody did the same exact thing at a Trump-Vance rally. So listen to it's a little hard to make out with the Kamala crowd. because there's a lot of background noise. But I've got a montage here of the incident that occurred at the Kamala Harris rally and the one that occurred where J.D. Vance was there. Clip 3.
We remember Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
There is something really bizarre with Kamala Harris's anti-Christian rhetoric and anti-Christian approach to public policy. I don't think that we've, that's right, Jesus is king, and I don't think that we've seen.
That was Vance right there.
At the end. Yes.
Senator Vance from Ohio, who was responding to, they was talking about the way that Kamala Harris, the VP, had addressed those 2 young men. Now, I didn't see the whole thing. I saw the testimony from the one of the gentlemen. These are 2 college students.
Yes.
University of Wisconsin, La Crosse. They went to the rally for Harris. They went there to disrupt it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They went there to disrupt the rally in the name of the pro-life cause.
Correct.
Okay, so one of them yelled something. So it wasn't, they weren't just yelling Jesus is Lord. Is that what they said? Or something like
Jesus
that?
is Lord, Christ
But
is
they're Christian men. They were protesting the Harris position on abortion is what they were there for. So that's the context of it. And then you know how what Vance writes there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just more and more impressed with Senator Vance as we go along here.
Yeah.
You guys?
Well, yeah, absolutely. He's articulate. He's smart. I think he understands constitutional government. The Kamala Harris reply. This you're wanting a different rally. The rally down the street, talking about this isn't your crowd. The crowd that is Christian and pro-life is Donald Trump. This is in the wake of Governor Whitmer of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, with the Doritos instead of the bread for the Eucharist.
Yes.
That was clearly an attempt to mock communion, the Lord's Supper, the Eucharist, depending on which denomination you're from. That was mocking something very dear to the Christian faith, and then followed by Kamala Harris. It's been clear since 2012 when the mention of God in the Democratic National Convention led to boos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the anti-faith party on one hand, and certainly Republicans, it's a mixture, but it leans strongly in the direction of being pro-faith. So,
all right, we're going to take a short time out right here. We'll be back with more on today's issues after this timeout.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Back many years ago, there were 12 men who shared a common bond. They joined themselves together for what they considered a great cause. It was, indeed, a revolutionary idea they had. It was also a revolutionary leader that they followed. With no weapon more powerful than a great cause, they set out to conquer the world. They carried no swords. They asked no material benefits. They expected to be scorned and ridiculed by the masses wherever they went. Yet from the very beginning, they never swerved, never parted from that great cause to which they had pledged themselves. Lest we forget the impact of that cause upon those men, lest we forget what bound them together, lest we forget what was more powerful than the sword that they refused to carry, we need to remember what happened to those 12 men. One was named James. He was the brother of the leader of the 12. Another was also named James. He had a father who was named Zebedee. These two men carried the cause into the streets of the city where their group was meeting. Both men were met by angry mobs and were murdered because of their cause. Another man among the 12 was named Matthew. He had been a man of wealth prior to joining the cause and gave up financial security in order to become a member of the 12. He carried the cause to a little country called Ethiopia. There he was slain on a sword. He died for the cause. Philip was another of the 12. He came from a little city called Bethsaida, meaning the house of the fisher or the house of the hunter. He went fishing and hunting for men for the cause. He was hanged in Phrygia. Bartholomew was the unlikely name of another. Because of the cause, his skin was ripped from his body while he was still alive. Andrew, with his Greek name, was another of those pledged to the cause. He was crucified in Achaia. The cause deserved all he had. Thomas, often criticized for his doubts, left no doubt as to his loyalty to the cause. He carried it to East India, and there he was run through with a lance. Another was named Thaddeus. He was sometimes referred to as the other Judas. He gave it his all before he was shot to death with arrows. He was buried, legend says, in Beirut. There was Simon, a member of the Jewish Nationalistic Party, ready to die for his country against the hated Romans. Instead, he died for his cause. Like his leader, he was crucified. Persia was the place of death. Peter, perhaps the best known of the men, got as far as Rome with the cause. There he too was crucified. His request was to be crucified upside down. He did not consider himself worthy to die as his leader did. There was also Matthias, selected to fill the place of the one who betrayed the leader. He paid dearly for his decision to follow the cause. He was beheaded. The other of the men was named John. He was the brother of James, the son of Zebedee. He alone escaped death because of the cause. And still, someone says the Christian faith is free.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. 1 Peter 1:3.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's issues, the name of the show. Tim, Ed, and Chris. And we thank you for joining us. We're going to play now the interview that for just a minute, it won't take but a minute, but we need some to hear it because we were talking about this before the break. Mm-hmm. There were two young men who were students at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, and they went to the Kamala Harris rally yesterday, right?
Over the weekend.
And I guess it was in the neighborhood. And so they went there with the intent to protest in the midst of the event, right?
Peacefully protest, yes.
Well, yes. And listen, I don't agree with going to a rally. This is me personally. People may disagree, and that's fine. I don't agree with going to any rally and just getting in the middle of it and start shouting and or protesting in that way, because I think it's bad.
I'm with you.
I just think it's bad manners and it's a bad look. But some people may say, well, that's the only way to get your message out. Anyway, I don't want to argue about that. I don't agree with that tactic. However, these fellows, do they explain what's going on here?
Yes, and I've posted this link to the entire interview, but we're going to play just a portion of it. Here now is, University of Wisconsin lacrosse juniors Luke Pulaski and Grant Beth talking to Fox and Friends Weekend. Clip 4.
After she talked about overturning Roe v. Wade and Donald Trump, I yelled out to the crowd that abortion is the sacrament of Satan. And when I said that, I deeply do believe that as a Christian. And about 10 seconds go by, and that's when the video of my friend Grant and I proclaiming that Christ is Lord and Jesus is King, when we said that.
I was pushed by an elderly woman. We were heckled at. We were cursed at. We were mocked. And that's the biggest thing for me personally. In reflection of the event, Jesus was mocked. His disciples were mocked. And that's okay. In reality, we did God's work, and we were there for the right reasons. And God is watching.
Okay, that's the two gentlemen from students, young men from University of Wisconsin lacrosse, and that's when Kamala Harris said, "You're at the wrong rally. You need to go to the other rally." I guess you're talking about Vance's rally. Down
The other
street?
Trump Vance rally down the street.
Yeah. So, anyway, all right. You're listening. Anything else to add to that, Ed?
No, I agree with you. I think civil discourse is important. We want to hear the different views on it. The Lincoln Douglas debates, for example.
I remember those.
You do. You remember those?
Yeah, boy.
Listen,
Things
those
like
were
yesterday.
Those were discussing very contentious issues on matters like slavery. Okay, but the sense was both sides have to be able to get their point across. I mean, I certainly don't disagree with what these young men said.
Right.
In terms of how demonic abortion is. But I just there are other ways to get your point across without disrupting. I mean, nobody wants a Trump rally, broken up. By gunfire or anything
Get that
else.
guy. Huh?
What's that?
At rallies.
No more fries.
When Trump has been challenged at rallies, or somebody yelled at him, he's yelled things like "Get that guy" or "Watch that guy."
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
I mean, he doesn't like it either.
No, I'm not saying anybody likes it. That's why I'm saying people shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
they shouldn't disrupt the. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
All right, so
I'm agreeing with you, Tim.
Yes, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Well, one of the ministries we partner with here at AFR and AFA is Preborn, and we've been partnering with Preborn for a long, long time now. And the CEO is Dan Steiner, and Daniel on the book here. He's got a new book out, which we want to tell you about because you want to buy it and read it. And it's called "Hearing Jesus Say, Well Done: The Secret to Securing Heaven's Rewards." Good morning, Dan.
Hey, Tim. God bless you guys. How you doing?
Hey, doing well, my friend. Where are you joining us from today?
Sunny Indianapolis.
Okay, that's right. That's home. That's your hometown, right?
Yeah, that's headquarters.
Indianapolis. So tell us about your new book, "Hearing Jesus Say, Well Done."
Well, I think of the guys that you mentioned in the protest, or that kind of verbally protested at the Carmelo Harris, whatever her name is these days, event, and they weren't worried about what happened on Earth. They were worried about what happens after Earth, and that's what the book is about. Hearing Jesus say, "Well done." Because here's the deal: we all want to. It's the most coveted phrases in Christianity. We all want to hear Jesus tell us on that great day, our first moment in heaven, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master." We all want to hear it, but very few people know the biblical context for hearing "Well done, good and faithful servant." Where is it in the Bible? Where do you find it in the Bible? Probably a good thing to know if you want to hear it, right?
Right.
This is why we wrote the book, as to, because thankfully, the sacrifice and work of Jesus Christ, you and I will get to heaven by grace through faith plus nothing. It's the finished work of Christ. We'll get there. But to hear "well done," that's a different story, as well as the rewards in heaven. They're predicated on how we live our lives. And so this book talks about what is the biblical context for hearing "well done," as well as the biblical context for the many rewards that God has waiting for believers in heaven. Jesus said it very clearly in Revelation 22. He says, "Behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give everyone according to what he has done." And so this is, there's some preachers who will remain unnamed that have, large churches on beltways in large Texas cities that talk about your best life now. This is about your best life for 1 billion years. The book, well done. How you can be assured that your life will be handsomely rewarded at the judgment seat of Christ. Now, you guys know you're one of the finest Bible teaching radio network in the world. Praise God. That's why we love being with you guys, Tim. There's 2 judgment seats. There's the white throne, great white throne judgment. Don't want to go there. That's the judgment seat for unbelievers. And then there's the judgment seat of Christ, and we know that that's a judgment seat, not of condemnation, because there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ, we read in Romans, but that's a judgment seat of rewards or loss of rewards. You remember the context, right? It's
right.
Gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, and stubble. And so what's the difference? What constitutes that you'll get wood, hay, and stubble versus gold, silver, and precious stones? I mean, it's good to know the difference on that.
Right. So Dan, let me ask you this. Ed Vitaglione here. By the way, folks, the voice you hear, besides Tim and my voice, is Dan Steiner. He's president and founder of Preborn. He's also author of the book we're discussing with him, Hearing Jesus Say, "Well Done, The Secret to Securing Heaven's Rewards." So, Dan, let me ask you, you did mention the person who will go unnamed, who preaches on how you can have your best life now. Okay, so, yeah, who could that be? So, but the subtitle of yours is talking about heaven's rewards. So is that part of the big distinction between those who will hear Jesus say, "Well done," and those who won't? And that is, what is your focus? Is your focus on doing the will of heaven, or doing your own will? Because your best life now, that's a pretty compelling kind of blueprint for a lot of people, even those in the church. I want to enjoy life, and I want to, see kind of my will be done. Is that going too far in trying to differentiate these two groups?
I think that's just very poignantly said, Ed, as the distinctive between those who are living for earth and those who are living for eternity. There's only one life which will soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. And so Jesus himself is very clear about this. He said, "Don't lay up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust corrupt them, where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven." It's like you can bank in heaven. And so what are we doing today as believers in Christ that are listening, and us on the radio here, to lay up treasures? What are we doing? What can we do to lay up treasures in heaven? And the book is about how to, and I'm going to say one part of what the book is, and that is, well done. Hearing Jesus say, "Well done," is based on the parable of the talents and the parable of the mina. Now you dudes will remember what that is. That's, one had 5, one had 2, one had 1, and the one had 5 brought 5 more, and the one that had 2 brought 2 more. And to them, he heard the words from the master, who had been gone for a long time, but came back. And how many of you know Jesus has been gone a while?
Right.
But he's coming back, and his rewards are with him. And we want to hear him say, "Well done." And it's based upon what we do with that which he entrusted to our care. That which he entrusted to our care. Thessalonians says that we have been approved by God. Thank God we've been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, which we speak, not fearing men, but fearing God, who will judge our hearts. Very clearly said there that God's given us an entrustment, as the master did with the servants with the mina, and he wants us to bring increase with that. No bigger increase, no better heaven, eternity relevant increase could be brought except to further the gospel for which Christ came and died. And so the book also talks about, so you'll hear well done by being able to bring kingdom increase with your life for eternity, not a bigger boat and a bigger house and a new Tesla, which will go 250 miles and then run out of gas. But it's about
it doesn't have gas.
Increase.
Dan.
Yeah, well, electricity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah. All right, so we're talking to Dan Steiner. Well, Dan, how can people get a copy of your book? The book is Hearing Jesus Say, Well Done, The Secret to Securing Heaven's Rewards. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this, guys. Just best place to go to Amazon, order it, danielsteiner.com, danielsteiner.org. You could get there too, but order the book, leave a review if it's something that is helpful to your walk with the Lord. You'll find in it as well the single secret to hearing the rewards that are waiting for us in heaven. There's 10 different ones, guys, that are spelled out there in Revelation. Walk with me in white, eat from the tree of life. All of them have a single qualifying word. It's amazing. They all have the same qualifying word. What is that word? You have to read the book. I'm not going to spoil it. But, go to Amazon, Hearing Jesus Say, Well Done, The Secret to Securing Heaven's Rewards. I don't aspire to be an author. I just want to get the word out that you can have your best life for 1 billion years on the first day in eternity. That's what it's about. So,
all right, Dan, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Take care.
Yep. Be blessed.
Okay, that's Daniel Steiner joining us from Indianapolis. And the book is called Hearing Jesus Say, Well Done. Dan spells his last name Steiner. What do you think about it?
Well, listen, Dan's exactly right. I mean, Christians are called to recognize that heaven is our destiny. Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 6, where your treasure is, where your heart is, there is where your treasure is. So your treasure is either here on earth or in heaven. He says, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And that seems to be what Dan Steiner is saying in this book. And really, what more do we want other than to hear Jesus say, well done, thou good and faithful servant? I like his emphasis on what are we called to do? What is the church called to do? Obviously, preaching the gospel, being salt and light, all these kinds of things are what we're called to do, and that's what God is going to look at. Jesus is going to look at when we stand before him.
Have you ever wondered, though, treasures in heaven? Heaven itself is a treasure.
Yeah, true. Absolutely.
So what are treasures in heaven that?
I think this goes to, I don't want to spoil anything. I have not had an opportunity to read Dan's book, but I'm guessing.
So you're not plagiarizing what
I'm not plagiarizing. So I'm guessing that's what Dan is going to be talking about, is that the rewards that we obtain when we stand before the Lord are the kinds of treasures that Jesus is talking about. And so, I use this example. You used this example years ago when I was teaching on this subject, when I was pastoring. I pulled out a $20 bill, and I said, "Now look," I said, "I'm not trying to condemn anybody, but you can spend this $20 bill on anything you want. You can spend it on food at McDonald's, where the president may be serving fries, okay? Or if you see someone who's in need, you can give that $20 to that person and tell them about the love of Jesus. On the one hand, spending it at McDonald's, nothing wrong with that. You have to eat. That's what money does. But that $20, that same $20 takes on an eternal emphasis when it becomes an instrument for sharing the gospel with someone. So I that's just the easiest way I've been able to kind of let people know that what we do on earth can have an earthly focus or a heavenly focus. And that's an important distinction that the New Testament lays out.
Amen. All right. So have you ever given your 20? Have you ever had that decision on whether to go to McDonald's or hand it to a homeless man?
I make sure I have $40 in my wallet. And now I will say this: I'm not.
So you can do both?
Well, listen, my wife accuses me. I love giving money away. I love it. And my wife is the one who always says, "Hey, we got to make the car payment. So don't." But I've done that. Well, we probably all have done that. Listen, I like to buy, if I see people in uniform, whether they're police or somebody in uniform, National Guard or whatever. I like buying their lunch. Yeah. And I'm not saying that I'm doing that to earn to please God. I just like doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like blessing people.
Yeah. Amen. Well, you can bless me anytime you want to. I am right down the hall.
Yes.
Listen, bring me gift cards, however you want to bless me, brother. If that makes you feel better.
Well, hey,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, sure.
Just because Christmas is not that far away, I'm a size Harbor Freight gift card.
Yeah.
If you need me.
Go,
Harbor
Chris.
Freight.
Go,
you like Harbor Freight?
I do.
What is Harbor Freight?
It's a kind of a lower cost hardware store. Isn't it kind of like
if you need a lawn tool or a tool and you're probably not going to use it a lot, you don't want to spend a lot. It's very right up your alley.
Cost effective.
Like what? Like a screwdriver or hammer?
Oh, all kinds of
saws.
Yeah, all kinds of tools.
Axe,
that's a hardware
machete.
store.
Kind of like Tractor Supply in a way, or Ace Hardware.
Yeah.
You know, Ace is a place with a
helpful
hardware man.
Yeah.
Is it Hardware Man?
They've changed it now. It's Ace is the place for the helpful hardware store. They took out the man. I don't know if it's a woke thing or not. But
okay, so they don't know what to do with gender.
I think Ace is the place for the helpful hardware man is what it is now.
That's what. That's what it always has been. All right, what's your next story, Chris?
I'm going to do this one, and then I'll have a conversation with Steve during the break when we tag out. So CBS 60 Minutes, they have been criticized for weeks now, ever since Kamala Harris did their sit-down interview. CBS has been accused of editing one of her, quote, word salad responses to something that she was asked on 60 Minutes. I have the audio here that begins with the CBS 60 Minutes personality asking her a question. She gives a ramble, and then it's going to be followed by what you'll hear him ask the question again, and you'll hear a very carefully edited response. Clip 6.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
So again, the beginning of that was him asking the question. She had a word salad of a response. Then you hear him ask the question. So it began with the unedited version, and it ended with the edited version. And people are saying clearly 60 Minutes did their best to try to make her sound good in this particular instance. And 60 Minutes has been hammered, criticized really, for saying they're out to promote her or whatnot. 60 Minutes and CBS have claimed they only edited that for time purposes, but not everybody's buying that. And I have one example here of Joe Concha talking about this on Fox and Friends, clip 8.
Wow, it took 14 days to put out that statement. This statement 60 Minutes issued is absolutely meaningless. The only resolution here is for the program to release the full transcript, release the hounds, release the interview in its entirety from start to finish. But the network won't do that. You know why they won't do that? Two reasons. One, the people that run that network want Kamala Harris to win and Donald Trump to lose. This ain't about journalism, it's about activism. And two, they know by releasing the transcript or the unedited video, it will likely show that on multiple occasions, this interview cut the guts out of the various word salad the vice president again served up. Her campaign now is only reduced to talking about Trump. It's not working. They're not giving people a compelling reason to vote for her. It's another reason why Donald Trump is not only winning this election as it stands right now, but perhaps is headed towards an electoral landslide.
I agree with everything he said.
Just kind of a mic drop and walk out of the room there.
Was that Joe Concha you said on Fox and Friends this morning? Okay.
I don't even think they should release the transcript. They should release the video.
Yeah, they should.
But they're not going to do it because I think they did edit it, just like Joe Concha said, and it would be a massive hit to the legitimacy of CBS as a news outlet, admittedly part of the mainstream media, but a huge hit to their legitimacy if everyone could see how protective they were of Kamala Harris. Again, to Joe Concha's point, So I don't think you'll ever see that video released, not before the election, because as he said, they want Kamala to win. They want Donald Trump to lose. Listen, I understand having to edit it for length, but the fact that they put out two different statements means some editorial decision was made. Somebody had to say, no, not that clip, this one over here. And what makes them pick this one as opposed to that one? Right. And I think it's all based on how it makes Kamala Harris look. If it makes her look better, we go with this one. Well, that's not being a news agency. That's being a propaganda outlet and an arm of the Democratic Party.
For people that are not aware, myself, Steve, Brent, a lot of people cut audio that we play on the show. And we do from time to time cut things for time purposes.
Right.
But we disclose that before we play the clip. Now, we had to cut this down because there's too long of a pause and all these kinds of things. We never try to make the person look better. And that's
or look worse.
What arguably 60 Minutes did here, which is a shame because that's their flagship news product. It's been around for longer than I've been on this earth.
I remember it when I was in high school when it came out.
So, well, listen. So what Joe Conch is saying there is no doubt that the mainstream media, they've always leaned left and they've always been pro-Democrat. So the only way that 60 Minutes would be able to get away from what Joe Conch is talking about right there and the accusation of being blatantly biased to support Kamala Harris, trying to hide her weak interview by putting forth something that's edited to make her look better, like they're her PR team, that is 60 Minutes /CBS, is to, like you said, just put out the whole interview. Just put it up there. Put out the whole interview and let people see it for themselves and see what happened right there.
Right.
So you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. So we got about it. Why don't you tell us, Chris, people want to get our news brief. We do a daily news brief Monday through Friday that people can get our American Family Radio news team puts together. Talk about that.
Yeah, if you go to afn.net, you'll see at the top right of the page there's a subscribe button. Click that and give us your name and email address. We're not going to share that with anybody. We're not going to sell your information. The reason we're getting it is because when you sign up for our free daily email news brief, once a day you will get an email from our crack staff there in the editing department. It's a compilation of about 5 or 6 stories, things we're covering that you need to know to keep you and yours informed. So sign up today for free at afn.net.
AFN.net. It's excellent, folks. Make sure you take advantage of it. It's free. And once a day, that isn't bad in terms of getting the news of the day from a Christian perspective.
All right, we're going to take a short time out right here. We shall be back. Steve Paisley Jordahl is right down the hall walking this way. Chris, we thank you.
Thank you.
Ed and I both thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
From the absolute
bottom of our hearts.
The bottom of the barrel, in
Brent,
fact.
Your silence speaks volumes right now.
Right, your contribution to this show. We'll be back in a minute. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
You're aware of how important it is to stay engaged in America's culture war. One way American Family Association helps you to do that is through action alerts. Here's how it works. Once or twice a week, we'll email you about matters critical to America's families, and we'll offer ways to take action. Visit afa.net today and tap the Action Alert sign-up button.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President Donald Trump visiting North Carolina today to tour the damage from Hurricane Helene and make a few campaign stops. Bill Malugin in Asheville, North Carolina has more.
Former President Donald Trump has several campaign stops here in North Carolina, where the latest Fox News polling shows VP Kamala Harris has a very slim 2-point lead over Trump with registered voters. However, we should point out that poll was from last month, and it is within the margin of error. When Trump gets to North Carolina today, he's first going to have an event out in Asheville in the western part of the state. That was an area that was just devastated by Hurricane Helene, where recovery efforts are very much underway. Then later in the afternoon, he's going to be holding a roundtable with religious leaders. He's also hinting that former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley may soon be joining him out on the campaign trail in the coming days.
North Carolina is continuing to recover in the wake of Hurricane Helene. Governor Roy Cooper giving an update on recovery efforts.
We know that Helene has been the deadliest and most devastating storm in North Carolina history.
More than 250 people died from Hurricane Helene, with over half of those coming from North Carolina. Government spending becomes a campaign issue as it reaches almost $36 trillion. Edward Lawrence at the White House with more.
The federal deficit has now reached a record, the highest level in history outside of that. So $1.8 trillion more is what the government's spending than it's taking in. It's part of the campaign now, as former President Trump stopped in Lancaster, Pennsylvania on Sunday.
And also they're spending, their stupid spending. They spend money on the Green New Scam at levels that nobody's ever seen before.
Still, the Harris-Walz ticket says that it's former President Trump's problem.
He also became, as he himself said, the king of debt and drove up the national debt $8 trillion, more than any president in U.S. history.
$6 trillion of that $8 trillion spent under the former Trump administration went to support the economy and the U.S. during the pandemic.
President Trump is considering a lawsuit against CBS for election interference after the network edited at least one awkward answer from Kamala Harris in her interview with Fox's Bret Baier. Steve Jordahl has more.
Former President Donald Trump sat down with podcaster Dan Bongino Friday, and one of the topics was the headwinds the Trump campaign is getting from the left-leaning mainstream media. One example was the stealth edit of a Kamala Harris answer to an immigration question during her interview with Bret Baier. Trump says he's tired of CBS and other networks covering for his political opponent in the race for the White House.
I think I'm going to sue them, actually.
Good. Go for it.
I think so. No, you know what? They can't defend it. And even if they win, it's going to be very embarrassing.
Fox News asked FCC Commissioner Nathan Symington if the president had a case. He declined to opine on the CBS matter specifically since it might come before him, but in general, he says, trying to deceive the public is one way to get a hefty fine, if not lose a broadcast license.
If the licensee itself goes out of its way to alter reporting in a way that shows deliberate dishonesty, at that point, that really can be an abuse of the public trust that you hold by virtue of your license.
He says much like a slander charge, the president would have to show malign intent.
We need documentary evidence of deliberate distortion that would be sufficiently strong to require an inquiry.
But Symington does say the CBS edit is questionable enough to get at least a hearing.
I don't think that this complaint is facially ridiculous, and it would not be inappropriate for the commission to take it up.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
Jury selection begins in New York today in the manslaughter case of a former Marine charged with putting a homeless man into a chokehold on the New York City subway after that man had threatened passengers on the train. Madeline Rivera has more.
Prosecutors say Daniel Penny, a Marine veteran, acted recklessly and was negligent when he placed Jordan Neely in a chokehold that lasted more than 3 minutes. Penny's legal team argues he was concerned about other people's safety, accusing Neely of threatening to hurt people on the train. Penny's attorney saying, "Our team looks forward to commencing the jury selection process and selecting a fair and impartial jury that will ultimately clear Danny of any wrongdoing."
More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty P.
Interested in seminary but don't think it will work in this season in life? Wesley Biblical Seminary offers flexible options that allow you to take classes live, no matter where you are. At WBS, we don't just educate people, we develop trusted leaders for faithful churches. It's time for you to respond to the calling God has on your life. Take classes from an institution that you can trust for a calling that will not go away. Learn more about your opportunities at wbs.edu. That's wbs.edu.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. And if there are people out there listening and they say, boy, I'm not going to be able to listen to all the show today or tomorrow, today's issues, but I'd like to listen to it, when I want to. How can they do that?
Well, it's called a podcast. And folks, for just about all our shows, we have podcasts available. And so these are recorded, and they are categorized according to the show, and you can find these collections. You go to afr.net, afr.net. There's a drop-down menu for podcasts. You can click on that, and it'll bring up all the shows. And if you want to listen to today's issues, you can click on it, and those will be categorized according to date. If you like Trivia Friday, it has its own click-through menu for the podcast. So afr.net, click on podcasts, and you can find your favorite show and listen to whatever you've missed.
Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us now in studio. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. If you can't, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't stay for the whole program, we're going to have to mark you absent, especially since most of the important stuff happens late in the show. So
you're talking about the third segment by any chance?
Maybe.
What do you got, Steve?
All right. Trump derangement syndrome has set in among some evangelicals. We've talked a little bit here about people like Russell Moore,
right,
and his ilk, David French, and such. Well, let's add Pastor Matt Chandler to that particular list. He is the pastor of the Village Church in Flower Mound, Texas. He is a very influential church planner, and a couple of weeks ago, Megan Basham of the Megan Basham, the reporter, great reporter, she's the one that found this, and she's putting it out. I want you to hear what Matt Chandler had to say, and he's talking about the Republicans siding with the GOP, with Republicans. I'm sorry, with evangelicals, with pro-lifers siding with Republicans. He's talking about the link between pro-lifers and the Republican Party. All right, so let's listen to what he has to say. Cut 5.
In 1972, go read their charter. Not a single word about God or abortion in there. They were losing elections. They developed a strategy in the 70s to co-opt us and make us their people. They know we're easily manipulated. We are easily worked into a frenzy. We can be controlled by them. And that's what they did. And they are not for us. They do not all believe what we believe. This is a strategy. So I feel used by them. When they talk about us and to us, I feel in my guts like, get my name out of your mouth. You do not represent me.
Wow. All right. So I heard this over the weekend and I flipped out. Okay, some people say that preachers should not talk about politics. Well, Matt Chandler should not talk about politics or history because that is logically and historically garbage, what he said. Now, let me just break this down for you folks. Now, I haven't liked Matt Chandler for a while because he has thoroughly gone woke. But that statement, those statements he made, I'm not going to say he's lying. I'm just saying he's wrong. And until he gets his history straight, he shouldn't talk about the history of politics in this country. So let me break this down for you. Yes, it is true that in 1972, the Republican platform did not mention God or abortion because 1973 is when Roe versus Wade was decided and abortion was made legal across the country. Second of all, to say that the Republicans decided to go after evangelical Christians because they were losing elections is also nonsense. Richard Nixon won handily in 1968. In 1972, he won every state over George McGovern except for Massachusetts and one delegate in Virginia. Richard Nixon won 520 electoral votes to 17. All right. So Republicans were not losing elections. They weren't desperate to try to find another constituency. But after Roe versus Wade in 1973, Christians began to think, we need to probably start getting involved. It wasn't the Republicans looking to co-opt Christians. By the way, that little diatribe about how easily swayed we are and hysterical and all those kind of things, maybe Matt Chandler is easily persuaded, okay? But many Christians are not.
He said manipulated.
Manipulated. Well, Matt Chandler, maybe I hope you have a good board of elders if you're easily manipulated. Speak for yourself, all right? Third of all, Christians and evangelicals did not start getting involved in politics until 1976 when Jimmy Carter ran, okay? Jimmy Carter opened up politics to evangelical and born-again voters when he told in an interview, I want to say it was the Playboy interview, that he was a born-again Christian. That's who opened up politics. However, because a lot of evangelicals didn't like Jimmy Carter's policies, they started to follow Ronald Reagan, who narrowly lost in the primaries for the nomination for the Republicans to Gerald Ford. But that's who started drawing evangelicals to the Republican Party against the wishes of the Republican establishment, contrary to what Matt Chandler said. And then it was Jerry Falwell in 1979 who started the Moral Majority that I think helped get Ronald Reagan elected in 1980. None of what Matt Chandler said is historically accurate, and it's insulting to Christians. And if he wants to talk about himself, about how poor a judge of character he is, that's fine. But don't put the rest of us in that category. And Matt Chandler, you get my name out of your mouth. All right. I've had my say because I flipped when I heard
for those who don't know, Matt Chandler is a very popular pastor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but he's well known across the country in evangelical circles, his books and messages and so forth. And was that clip that we just heard, I guess that was recent?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, he's really angry right there.
I don't recall him saying anything in 2008, 2016.
Why didn't he
2012?
Does he also talk about the Democrat Party?
I didn't listen to the entire sermon.
Yeah.
Well,
listen, okay, to add, first of all, I agree with what your analysis there and of what Matt Chandler's the correct history that you gave that he didn't give. All right.
Can I just toss one other thing in?
You toss it in. No.
I know I'm worked up.
Yeah.
Listen, AFA started in 1977. Other ministries started. This was not the Republicans trying to co-opt Christians. It was Christians waking up.
Right.
We're talking about Phyllis Schlafly, who started, I think, in 73. We're talking about Dr. D. James Kennedy. More than just Jerry Falwell.
Dobson,
Christians started to realize we've got to get involved in the culture and politics. We were looking for a home, a political home, but I don't know any Christian that would say GOP right or wrong.
No.
This is this man should be ashamed of himself at the very least because he got it all wrong. All right. That's it.
Oh, maybe he does a fair analysis of the Democrat Party, too.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll wait. Political parties.
I'm just kidding. I don't think I've heard it.
No, I don't.
Yeah, no. Go ahead. Go ahead and say what you're going to say there.
Political parties they're not an entity of themselves. They are a collection of various special interests that get together and say, we will agree to fight as a team for these sets of principles. I may not be a big Second Amendment guy, but since you are all, I can advocate for you if you help me with the pro-life business. And that's the way you get an entrance into any kind of policy in this country. It's the way that it's just how things are done, and it's not evil. It's just a collection of people who agree on certain sets of principles that agree to pool their resources.
Yeah.
Pro-lifers were just one of those constituencies. So, we don't agree with everything, but there's nothing in the Republican Party, at least there hasn't been, that's disqualifying. And so
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Stephen. I've said this before. Political parties are not religious institutions.
Yeah.
They're not Christian denominations. The leader of the Republican Party is not a pastor, or a Democrat Party is not a pastor. So it's not the same thing. If you're expecting theological purity from a politician that you're going to vote for to be president or governor, that is a unfair expectation to have. Maybe that's the wrong way to phrase it. If you're going to vote on a pastor, are you going to vote on an elder or a deacon in your church, a leader, a Sunday school teacher, whatever? Do you have the right to expect that they have doctrinal consistency with your church's teachings? Absolutely. But when you're talking about something like politics in America, this is the general public that's making the decision, not just your church. So in the end, you have to make a decision on which candidate, which party best represents your beliefs. Is it going to be 100%? Absolutely no. It's not going to be 100%. But if you don't get involved in whatever political party or campaign you're going to get involved in to try to persuade that campaign or that party to adopt a particular position, you have to get in there and fight for it. You have to get in there and fight for it, sometimes against people who don't agree with you. All right?
Right.
And so that's just the way it is. If you're going to take the position that you must have purity of, you know what I'm saying, of theological matters as it relates to politics, then you just need to join the Amish, okay? And just live out by yourself and don't vote at all. I don't think they vote, do they? Amish?
No, they are. I've seen stories that they are going to be in.
They're
Pennsylvania.
changing?
They are going to be a force in Pennsylvania for Donald Trump.
That messes up my whole thing. But
sorry.
Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, you get the idea. So, listen. You have to go. This is me. I wrote a column about this, which will be coming out just in the next day or two. You have to go with the candidate who has a chance to win, who represents your views closest. That's what Ronald Reagan said, and others. That's when it comes to politics. Now, again, if you had me voting on a pastor or a elder or a deacon in the church, I would say 50% agreement's not going to cut it.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
So you see my point?
Yeah.
So when we have, it's interesting to me, some Christians who are critical of evangelicals who support the Republican Party, they want to cite this, that, or the other as reasons why you can't support the Republican Party, but they never, ever turn the tables and say, well, what about the Democrat Party?
Right.
Let's critique them. And can an evangelical or a conservative Catholic, for example, support the Democrat Party or not? No, they just want to say, Trump this or
Matt
whatever.
Chandler did say that the Democrat Party was no better on abortion, but this is why I think we may be all kind of overthinking this. Matt Chandler said some things that were not so kind about Donald Trump in his sermon, and I think that Matt Chandler has been infected with Trump derangement syndrome, and the reason that he is railing against it is because he hates Donald Trump, and that's it. I don't believe that he has a problem with the Republican Party or pro-lifers being associated with it. He just doesn't want them to be associated or have anything positive to say about Donald Trump. That's my...
Yeah, well, maybe so. I don't know. Listen, I don't like a lot of stuff Trump does either. He's embarrassing sometimes. Saturday in Wisconsin, he's at an event talking about private parts.
Things we can't talk about on the radio.
About Arnold Palmer. I'm going like, what in the world are you doing? So he does that kind of stuff. And it's, but what are you going to do? You going to vote for a communist or a Marxist? Huh? So you have to go with, after you realize character doesn't matter anymore to Americans, I don't think. This is my view. I don't think
You're thinking you're not saying it should or shouldn't. You're saying it doesn't.
I'm saying character doesn't matter as much as it used to.
Right.
Or it should.
Like when Jimmy Carter was running.
That's just a reality.
Yeah.
Don't you agree with me on that?
Absolutely, and it really kind of started with Bill Clinton.
That's what I meant.
Jimmy. And Democrats. Anyway, I don't want to go back.
So I'm just saying. So what are you going to vote for? If you're going to vote, you don't like Trump's personality. Okay, I want to vote for. I'm not voting for his personality in the end, or his character, or lack thereof. I'm voting for the policies that are going to be implemented that are going to affect millions and millions of people in the future of our country. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and when you say his character, you're saying, listen, he's coarse, which explains the comments in Wisconsin. He is aggressive verbally.
He was in Pennsylvania. He did that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
I was going to say, but you believe that he is going to do what he said he's going to do. So it's not that his character
I hope
is completely bankrupt.
I think so. I hope he is. I hope he is, and I trust him more than I trust Kamala Harris.
Right.
And his belief and Trump's fundamental beliefs about our country are something I can support. Yeah, and so I absolutely. And he's and like I said, who you going to pick? Harris? You're going to pick Trump? You got to pick one or the other.
Choice.
That's the choice. That's the choice. So anyway, go ahead, Steve.
All right. The United States is investigating the unauthorized release of classified documents detailing Israel's planned attack against Iran. The documents were spun up by the U.S. Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Security Agency. They consisted of satellite photographs of where Iran was sending its troops, massing its troops, prior to supposed intervention against Iran. This is to respond to Iran's ballistic missile attack on October the 1st. But no one's sure who leaked all this information. It was leaked to Axios and CNN. So they've got a big, huge investigation going on because this kind of compromises the mission in Israel. And, of course, we've been kind of questioning the administration's commitment to that mission in the first place. So this kind of raises all kinds of questions.
Listen, no one's going to go to jail over leaking official documents. I'm guessing this had to be classified information.
It's top secret.
Nobody is, I don't even think the federal government is going to find out who did it because, you want to know how I know? Because they still haven't found who leaked the Dobbs decision from the Supreme Court with just a handful of potential suspects.
Or who left cocaine in the White House.
Or listen, the federal government is too big, it is out of control, and this administration doesn't prosecute anyone unless you're a J6er or an old lady praying at an abortion clinic. These are the only kinds of folks they go after.
Well, they go after mayors of New York, too.
Well, that's true, but I would say it's because Eric Adams was complaining about the administration's border policies.
You may be right about that.
But anyway, I don't think anything's going to come out of this, although the only way this kind of thing stops is if someone goes to prison for 10 years. You investigate it, you find out who did it, you prove who did it, and then you put them in prison for, espionage. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, it comes on the heels of an attack on Benjamin Netanyahu's private home. He has a home in Caesarea. It's a fairly nice neighborhood. And the Hezbollah from Lebanon launched 3 drones. 2 of them were intercepted. 1 of them wasn't, and hit the home of Benjamin Netanyahu. He was not home at the time, but it was a deliberate attack. They're calling it an assassination attempt. This is what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say afterwards. He was talking, I think this is probably his very friendly media, certainly, but this is what he had to say after the bombing cut 9.
Prime Minister, how is it going?
Well, 2 days ago, we took out Yahya Sinwar, the terrorist mastermind whose goons beheaded our men, raped our women, burnt babies alive. We took him out, and we're continuing our battle with Iran's other terrorist proxies. We're going to win this war.
So will something deter you?
No.
He sounds like a man determined to me.
He does.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you're the mullahs of Iran and you authorize this attempted assassination of Benjamin Netanyahu, I'd be looking out your bedroom window.
And don't use your pager.
And don't use your pager, because turnabout is fair play.
So on the heels of this assassination attempt, Benjamin Netanyahu got a phone call from Donald Trump and also from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. He did not get a phone call or any notification or notice from Joe Biden or Kamala Harris.
Well, Kamala Harris is for the other side.
Well, and in fact, I can kind of let's talk about that, because she was at a gathering in Pennsylvania when a anti.
Can I say? Let me interpret my comment just so there's no. I'm not saying that Kamala Harris is for killing Jews.
Right.
All right. Or in favor of that kind of thing. What I'm saying is her comments and her politics align with keeping Hamas alive and Hezbollah alive, appeasement. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say.
And this is one of those examples. Again, she was in Pennsylvania at a small gathering. It was in a home, I think. And one of these pro-Palestinian protesters spoke up, you're going to hear it, and wanted to know what she thought about the ongoing genocide, which is what they call the war in Gaza. And this is what she had to say. This is, I just had it cut.
This is awkward.
I know it is. I just had it. Where was it?
You want a deal, Ed? Well, Steve finds out. Could play some cards here.
I know. Well, we did keep it in. Anyway, she said that they were right to talk about.
You have that clip, or you don't know it?
Oh, maybe we had to get rid of a bunch of clips. Maybe that's one we got rid of.
She says she says to the protester is pro Hamas, and she is trying to say she's trying to keep the disruption down, but she also says about the genocide, she says it's true.
Yep, it's real.
It's real. She said it's real. So she's agreeing with the protester that there's genocide going on. Genocide by the Israelis against the people of Gaza. That's what she would say. I've said this before. There's a war going on between Israel and Hamas, and the battlefield is basically where civilians live. That is where the Palestinian Arab people live there in Gaza. So there's a lot of innocent people, and by innocent I mean non-combatants, who have died in this war, sadly, tragically. But Israel, however they try to reduce the number of Palestinian people there who die, it's unavoidable, because it's like having to fight urban warfare. So it's an impossible situation if you want to critique everything Israel does to say, okay, well, these people, innocent people died. But it's not genocide. Genocide is when you go after people based on their ethnicity, right? Or their race.
Or their religion, any characteristic.
What Hitler did to the Jews was genocide, right? What Israel is doing with Hamas and those people, the combatants in Gaza, is trying to take out the combatants. Not try to. If they wanted to wipe out Gaza, they could probably do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With weapons, and just wipe the whole place out.
As you say, it's the worst genocide in the history of the world.
Yeah. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for listening. My thanks to Steve, Ed, Chris, and Brent Creeley, our producer. We'll see you next time.